In the isolated village of Thornwick, nestled deep within the shadowed hills, there lay an ancient legend passed down from elder to child, a tale of the Veiled One. She was said to be a spectral figure who appeared only on nights shrouded by thick fog, a ghostly silhouette that glided through the mist, leaving strange symbols etched upon the stones of Thornwick's oldest structures. No one knew who, or what, the Veiled One truly was, only that her presence marked a warning of impending calamity. This legend had once been whispered to young Ada by her grandmother. Ada was now grown, a woman of logic and reason, working as a historian in a nearby town. She had left the village behind, dismissing its eerie stories as the product of superstition and isolation. But when a letter arrived from her brother, Rowan, bearing desperate words scrawled in haste, she felt a chill creep into her heart. The village was no longer safe, he claimed. The Veiled One had returned, and her symbols were everywhere. The letter lay on her kitchen table, its ink smudged as though by an unsteady hand. Ada frowned as she read Rowan's words, her skepticism battling with a faint, lingering unease. Despite her doubts, she decided to return to Thornwick. If nothing else, she reasoned, she owed her brother a visit to ease his fears and perhaps dispel the ominous rumors circulating in the village. Upon her arrival, Ada found Thornwick as she remembered, a place out of time, with narrow lanes winding between houses of ancient stone, where the fog clung to the streets like a living thing. Her brother greeted her with a mixture of relief and dread, his eyes darting to the shadows as though expecting to see the Veiled One lurking in the mist. "Ada, you shouldn't have come," Rowan said in a voice barely above a whisper. "There's something watching us. I feel it every night." "Nonsense, Rowan," Ada replied, though her voice lacked conviction. "These are just stories, tales meant to scare children. There is no Veiled One." Rowan's gaze remained fixed on the thickening fog outside. "I thought so too," he murmured, "until I saw her with my own eyes. The symbols, Ada, they're warnings." She marked her path with them. Despite herself, Ada felt a prickle of apprehension. She had come to Thornwick to dispel the legend, but now, in the heart of the village, under the watchful fog, she began to wonder if there was more to the Veiled One than mere myth. The fog pressed closer to the village that night, a thick, oppressive veil that seemed to cling to Ada's skin as she stepped outside Rowan's cottage. She felt the weight of the air, dense with damp and something less tangible, a sense of anticipation, as if the night itself held its breath. The old stone walls of Thornwick's buildings loomed like silent sentinels, their surfaces etched with strange symbols that had not been there when Ada last lived here. Her fingers brushed one of the marks carved into the stone, the grooves cold and recent. As she turned to head back, a soft whisper floated on the mist, chilling her to the bone. "Leave!" She spun around, eyes scanning the empty street, her breath visible in the chill. She saw no one, but the whisper had felt close, almost brushing against her ear. Heart pounding, she hurried back inside, bolting the door behind her. Rowan was waiting, his face pale and drawn. "Did you see her?" "No," Ada replied, her voice barely steady. "But I heard something." Rowan nodded grimly. "She's always there watching. She only comes close when you ignore her warning. That's what they say." The siblings sat in silence, the only sound the faint ticking of the old clock on the wall. Rowan finally spoke, his voice hesitant. "Ada, there's something else you need to know. People have gone missing." Her stomach clenched. "Missing? Who?" Rowan's gaze dropped. "Several villagers. They vanished one by one after the symbols appeared near their homes. No one saw them leave. They simply disappeared." A feeling of dread settled over Ada. Her rational mind urged her to dismiss it as fear-mongering, but something deeper warned her otherwise. She had come to Thornwick for answers, but it seemed that each answer only led to more terrifying questions. Later that night, Ada lay awake in her room, watching the moonlight filter through the fog, casting shifting shadows against the walls. She could feel the weight of the village's fear pressing down upon her, a suffocating force that seemed to throb with each beat of her heart. Her eyes drifted to the window, and she could have sworn she saw a shadow pass across the glass. A brief, fleeting movement, but unmistakable. Ada closed her eyes, her hand clutching the sheets tightly. She told herself it was only her imagination, but as sleep finally claimed her, a dark figure loomed at the edge of her dreams, watching, waiting. The following morning dawned bleak and gray, the fog hanging heavier than before. Ada ventured outside, hoping daylight might lift the oppressive weight that had settled over her since her arrival. Yet, as she wandered the village, she felt the eyes of Thornwick's residents upon her, furtive, wary, as though she had brought with her something unwelcome. Conversations hushed as she passed. People nodded reluctantly in her direction, their faces drawn with a quiet, unspoken fear. As Ada continued, she found herself at the village chapel, its worn stone facade marked with one of the symbols she'd seen the night before, a twisted shape that seemed to writhe in the mist, as if alive. Father Eamon, the village priest, emerged from the shadows of the entryway, his eyes sharp and tired. "Ada," he greeted her, his voice low. "I see you've returned." She nodded, taking in the strange, solemn look in his eyes. "Father, I don't understand. These symbols, this veiled one, what does it all mean?" Father Eamon's gaze grew distant, his hands clasped tightly. "The veiled one has haunted Thornwick for generations. She marks her path with those symbols, warnings for us to heed. Those who ignore them or linger too close to her often vanish." Ada's skepticism wavered, but she forced herself to press. "It's just a story, isn't it? A tale to keep people from wandering into the mist." "Perhaps it once was," he replied, his tone laced with sorrow. "But in recent years, the legend has become reality. We are losing people, Ada, and I fear that this time, she may not be satisfied until the entire village is drawn into her shadow." A chill ran down Ada's spine as Father Eamon reached into his robes, producing a tattered old book. The cover was worn, the pages yellowed with age, and it smelled faintly of damp and dust. He handed it to her, his expression somber. "Take this. Within these pages are the accounts of those who encountered her and survived to tell the tale. If you wish to understand, read carefully." As Ada took the book, she felt a strange sensation, as though the weight of countless secrets rested in her hands. She returned to Rowan's cottage, opening the book to its first page, and began to read. The stories were chilling. A young girl lost in the fog, an elder who saw the veiled one beckon him to the edge of the forest, and the desperate scribbles of a man who claimed to have spoken to her. Each account echoed the same message: do not follow, do not linger. But the final entry sent a shiver down Ada's spine. It read, "The veiled one seeks something, and until she finds it, Thornwick will never be free." With the daylight fading, Ada closed the book, feeling an icy hand of dread close around her heart. She was beginning to understand that the veiled one wasn't merely a warning. She was a curse. As darkness fell once again, Ada felt the weight of her newfound knowledge pressing down upon her. She knew that the veiled one's presence was no mere legend. She was something ancient, a force tied to Thornwick's past. But there was something missing, a piece of the puzzle that she couldn't grasp. What was the veiled one seeking? And why did she linger in this cursed village? The fog thickened as midnight approached, swirling around Rowan's cottage like a shroud. Unable to ignore the pull of curiosity and dread, Ada rose from her bed, clutching the old book tightly. She slipped outside, following the narrow path that wound toward the forest, the place where most of the stories spoke of encountering the veiled one. Her heart pounded with each step, her breath visible in the frigid air. As she reached the forest's edge, she paused, staring into the endless darkness between the trees. The fog seemed to part, forming a narrow, winding path. Her pulse quickened, but she stepped forward, the shadows closing around her. Then she saw her, the veiled one. She stood tall and still, a spectral figure cloaked in tattered veils that billowed around her like wisps of smoke. Her face was hidden, but beneath her hood, Ada sensed eyes that saw far beyond mortal sight, as if they could pierce into the depths of one's soul. The symbol she had carved throughout the village glowed faintly upon her robes, pulsating with an eerie, otherworldly light. Ada! The voice was soft, almost a whisper, yet it resonated with ancient power. Why have you come? Ada swallowed, feeling as though the very air had turned to ice in her lungs. I want to know why you haunt Thornwick. What do you seek? The veiled one tilted her head, the veil shifting to reveal a glimpse of a face, pale and hollow, yet strikingly beautiful. I seek what was taken, she murmured, her voice tinged with sorrow. Once, I was bound to this land to protect it, but the people of Thornwick betrayed me. They turned their backs on me, forgetting their vows. Ada's heart pounded as the pieces began to fall into place. Thornwick had once revered this spirit, but something had broken that bond. What did they take from you? My name, the Veiled One whispered, her voice a blend of anger and despair. Without it, I am bound to this mist, this darkness, forever searching. And those who defy me, they vanish, taken as retribution. Ada's mind raced. If her name was the key, then perhaps restoring it could end the curse. Tell me your name, she pleaded. Let me set you free. But the Veiled One shook her head, her figure fading into the fog. You cannot restore what you do not remember. Only one who has known my name in life may free me. But that knowledge is lost, just as I am. Desperation gripped Ada. Then why call to me? Why lure me here? The Veiled One's gaze met Ada's, piercing and mournful. Because you are the last of my bloodline, Ada. I called to you in hope that somewhere within you, my name still echoes. With that, the Veiled One vanished into the mist, leaving Ada alone, the weight of her ancestors' curse heavy upon her. Thornwick would remain haunted, bound to the specter of the forgotten guardian. And as Ada returned to the village, she knew her own life would be forever shadowed by the Veiled One's silent, searching presence, a presence that would linger, waiting for the day her name might be remembered. The curse of Thornwick endured, an eternal search for what was lost, hidden within the veins of its last descendant.